Hey, good morning, everybody. Robert Phoenix here, as we have linked up and synced up all of the channels that are now participating in today's live stream. Good morning. It's always a pleasure to be here and get to hang out with you virtually. Let me just get into the 15 minutes site and make sure that everybody over there is seated and at the table and everything's moving and grooving. What do we have? Get back over there. And I've got to go over here. It's always fun. Do this because the Google, yes, it is. The Google browser version of that is difficult to access. There we go, and we are off and running. There it is, and we got a little chat reaction happening. Okay, let's just make sure. Hello, everybody. All right. As I link the various worlds together, the YouTube world, the 15 Minutes of Flame world, I'm straddling various nodes of the internet. What's going on out there? How is everybody? It's a little gray, slightly overcast here in Texas, but it's okay. It's funny. People have always asked me, "Oh God, the weather sucks today," or "the weather's this, the weather's that." And like one of the earliest kinds of pieces of personal and spiritual training that I put myself through was not being dependent upon the weather, right? If we are always sort of, it's a beautiful day. And beautiful days are beautiful. We love them. They're great. But there is beauty in just about every single day that we can find. And it used to be, this is the sad part. It used to be people would say, how are you doing? Well, I'm not 6 feet under, or I'm vertical. And that would be some kind of affirmation as to the quality of their existence, which I get. Like, you get another day to be alive and have an experience as a human. And the alternative is that you're dead. And I would say that psychology might have changed and shifted a little bit because of the nature of so-called reality and what they've done to life on this planet, which is making it more and more difficult every single day for people to just breathe and live their lives. And we're going to get into that today on today's show, which is the assault of the Nanny State. And I'm going to give you at least four very clear examples. Four very clear examples as to what's going on and why any free-thinking person needs to be very concerned, because again, this gets into this idea and notion that we are at war. And I don't want to continue to bang this drum so that you're like always terrified about being at war. I mean, that's not why I go here. I go here because you need to wake up and you need to understand what's taking place. And it's a very subtle, and it's a very sophisticated, and it's a very insidious kind of theater that we're involved in. It is the pot that gets turned up incrementally so that ultimately the frogs are cooked to death. This is the environment that we're living in right now. And every now and then the fire gets turned up more than incrementally. And that we saw that last week. We saw that with the fire literally getting turned up with the burning of Notre Dame, and then at the end of the week, the explosions of the churches in Sri Lanka. But the other thing before I get into the Nanny State stuff is that there were some other really, really strange things that happened last week that were kind of on the radar or off the radar a little bit. There was this young woman, Sol Pais. What a name that is, huh? Place of the Sun. Place of the Sun. And what have I been talking about recently? I've been talking about the rise of the Apollonian, or the Apollonian dynamic versus the Dionysian. And here we have in this one individual, Sol Pais, who went to Colorado. Apparently, she went there to go commit suicide. I mean, the whole thing is very convoluted and weird. And they had to shut down the schools. Of course, this was taking place in the shadow of Columbine, so it could, trigger everybody's trauma around Columbine. I mean, it's just the whole thing is. I mean, it's a page out of the Holocaust textbook. We have these Holocaust museums all over the place, so that theoretically people will never forget. But they're trauma centers. They're trauma centers. Last night I was I had a rare night out here, since I have been on my new hermetic and slightly monastic lifestyle mode. So I went out last night, and a friend of the show came into town, and you're always welcome to come to Fredericksburg. You get to hang out, you get to go to Silver Creek, which is where I kind of have hung out a little bit in the past, and I haven't been there for a few months. It's a cool little place in town. So a friend of the show came on up, and we're hanging out, and there were these two women who were sitting next to us, mother and daughter. I see a lot of mother and daughters. They love to come to Fredericksburg. The only difference is the mother and daughter team here were they were from Wales. They were a couple of Welsh gals, and apparently they've got a real love affair with Texas and come here every couple of years. And so they were there, and the mother of the duo, she told me that she cannot go to World War II sites, and she cannot go to any of the Holocaust memorials and museums because it sends her into a place of trauma. Now, she was not born during World War I, World War II. She was born just in the aftermath. But the ghosts and the phantasms of these really intense and planet-changing events still linger, and she was getting triggered just merely by the thought of being in proximity of these places. And this is what happens when we, it's the recycling of cultural and social trauma. There's an industry. It's a huge industry, and now it's been so intense and prevalent with the Holocaust and all the various Holocaust museums and memorials all across the planet. Now it's moving into slavery and reparations. So there's this concerted effort with, taking the past and dredging it up and, put it in front of people's faces so people will be traumatized on a daily basis. Anyway, it's a whole nother thing, but we're kind of in this cycle now with the Columbine events. And of course, we talked about this yesterday with Waco, and you guys were very receptive about that. I got some great emails around that Waco is left out of the mix, but Columbine and Oklahoma City, certainly Columbine, has joined that circuit, the trauma circuit, which is what I'd like to call it. Anyway, she said, none for me. So Sol Pais goes to Colorado and winds up with a shotgun and naked. I mean, the whole story is so bizarre. And even her name, Place of the Sun, and we're dealing with like very much a solar kind of, how do I say this? A solar sacrifice. If you look at Notre Dame, which is basically Our Lady, it is a shrine to the Virgin, right? A shrine to the Virgin Mary, which is the mother, which is maternal, not quite Dionysian, but in that cast in that feminine kind of deep, rich archetype. And I have to say that for me personally, I have not necessarily picked up on the whole feminine goddess mother worship thing. It's never, I think we have imprints with our own original mothers and how they impact us. And my mother was a working mother. She got up every day and she went to work, and She came home exhausted and wound up, cooking dinner for us after a very, very long day. And only in retrospect did I understand sort of the intensity around all that and going through commuter traffic. I mean, just really intense stuff. She's got Mars and Taurus, so she can kind of handle it in some ways. But I was not raised in kind of the traditional kind of maternal sense, so it's kind of tweaked me a bit later in life to see this whole kind of feminine goddess sort of thing. It was never part of my world. And even when I was like in New Age land, living in California and going to Marin County and doing sweat lodges and all this stuff that goes along with it, that was never part of my. A lot of people were deeply into it. It was not my thing. And not to dismiss it, but it was just not my thing. However, that said, it is a thing for a lot of people, and in some ways, it should be a thing. Not in the sense that that we're worshiping this kind of abstraction, but this life force that does nurture us and does give us an opportunity to be in this planet, which is, the feminine side of God, is really an important thing. It's a very important thing, and we can't have one without the other. The Dionysian and the Apollonian should theoretically work together as a whole. And one informs us on an emotional level, and the other informs us on an action or will-oriented level. And the challenge is that we've been so split and atomized that it's been very, very difficult to bring these two together. In fact, they've become further and further apart. The masculinization of women and feminization of man. Okay, so what we're having is, in some degrees, kind of an overcorrection, or at least that's what it seems like. But we've been so kind of Apollonian deficient on a personal level, like on a day-to-day level, like in the sense that we've been so entrenched in indoctrinated into feeling good, feeling better, finding the right place, the safe space, all that bullshit, that what we've lost is we've lost the ability to get through challenging situations in our lives, and doing so with kind of this inner mechanism that allows us to direct our will and face certain things that are not always nice or not always pleasant. When the light of the sun is shown upon our lives, we become in contact, or we have contact with our shadows. And that's another part of the Apollonian piece, is that the shadows become much greater once the light of the sun, the altered bright white light of the sun now shining down upon us, the solar minimum sun. Anyway, so we have this weird kind of sacrifice going on, right? We have the sacrifice of Our Lady. Then we have this weird kind of ritual sacrifice of Sol Pais, the young woman who was troubled and found naked with a shotgun in Colorado, the home of Columbine. Then there's this Lamparello character who decided that he was going to set fire to a church in New York City. And this is a guy who's a professor, very brilliant professor, kind of quirky, has a hard time finding dates, decides he wants to get some sort of plastic surgery, look younger, look better. Man, the men of this planet are having a hard time. I just gotta say, having a difficult time. Anyway, he goes off the rails, and no real history of going off the rails. What the hell happened to him? Why did he all of a sudden decide that he wanted to burn down a church? Anybody answer me that? Can you say Manchurian Candidate? Was this dude triggered? That was all part of the high strange of last week. Lamparello, Sol Pais, this kind of ritual of the sun, this ritual of the moon and the feminine, taking place in two parts of the world. I told you last week was going to be strange and weird, and it was. It was totally strange and weird. But it's not as strange and weird as the future that we're beginning to stare down. And so now I want to shift gears, and I want to just get into some of the Nanny State material that I've comprised for you. and want to share with you. Before I do that, let me check in and see how everybody is doing. What's going on in Chatlandia. Robert Severe put out a great video yesterday on Hollywood, already removed from YouTube. Hello, Shari. Good morning, Natasha. There's Heidi. What's going on? Mary, good morning. Good morning. Justice, good morning. Let's see, Luann. Good morning. Hi, Luann. There's Rhonda. What's going on? Yeah, YouTube. YouTube really is not our friend. It started off as a really good idea, and all of a sudden, just like everything else, becomes co-opted. It becomes co-opted. And if you have anything contrary to say about any group, unless they're Christians, white and male, you're in the crosshairs, and you run the risk of having your video removed. You run the risk of being demonetized. I've already been demonetized. That they didn't waste any time around the demonetization part. Isn't that interesting that we have the word demon into demonetization? Isn't that interesting? It's probably a blessing that people are demonetized, because the monetization of YouTube is really a tie that binds in a way that makes things very, very difficult for people. That you're always beholden to thinking about what you're going to say or what's going to happen. Will my channel be removed? I mean, it's just another existential threat that is just looming over our heads. I like Robert Safir stuff. I think he's brilliant. He's really, really brilliant. And there's Isla and Sticky. What's going on, everybody? Okay, let me check in on over on the other side, on the 15-minute side, or the 70 million died at World War II. Brutal. Ruby Ridge is another piece, yes. Ruby Ridge, that's kickstarted everything. One of the things that I wanted to talk about yesterday that I never got around to, but I want to finish up, are these guys that are going down to the border and trying to round up, the so-called illegals. And every time you look at these characters, and I'm not saying that, look, they're trying to do, if they're not total plants, if they're not another kind of version of cutouts, because the way reality works now is that you really can't, it's a hall of mirrors. It's very, very difficult to trust what you see sometimes now. And it's going to get worse. It's really going to get worse. They have technology that if they wanted to, they could recreate my voice, they could recreate my face, and they could put it out there, and they could have me saying things that are completely and utterly damning or distasteful or shocking. So it's going to get much harder to determine what's real and what's not real. That's just the way the game is. So let's just take it on face value. The guys down at the border are who they say they are. But when you look at them, they're like really out of shape, kind of, caricatures. They're cliches. They got big ass bellies. You look at them and they just reek of ugly American. They just reek of ugly American. So here's my call to anybody who has a desire to be a quote unquote patriot, or has the audacity to do what theoretically sovereigns are tasked with doing, which is protecting their homestead or their land or the country they live in. Get in shape, okay? Get in shape. Get in shape. Work out. Lose the guts. Do not look like a fucking cliche. Okay? Don't look like a cliche. And the other thing you don't want to do is don't go into full camo geek mode. That's the other cliche. Right? That is the other cliche. If you want to be a quote unquote vigilante, or you want to, participate and help or do what theoretically we're supposed to do, take care of yourself. Be in better shape. Look good. Don't dress the paramilitary part. Just look different. One of the things that was really successful about Saul Alinsky is that he rejected radicals who had long hair and really kind of looked the college the college commie hippie part. He said, cut your hair and get a fucking suit. Get a suit and tie. Because we're going in. We're going in and we're going to look like them. This is the Pete Buttigieg kind of plan. Pete Buttigieg is going to look more like a Republican than any other Democrat on the Democratic side. He's going to play the conservative part. He's going to anyway. It's a whole other different discussion. But I'm sure none of you are listening who are really engaged in this. But if you do listen to this, if you somehow stumble across my YouTube channel and you decide that you want to, get involved and monitor our country's interests on the border or anywhere else, get in shape, look good, okay, and don't play the camo geek paramilitary role either. Have a different kind of vibe. If we're going to go into this realm, if we're going to theoretically stand up, we cannot bow down to the cliches. We can't. We must avoid cliches at every opportunity. Every opportunity. Because when we become the cliche, we become the caricature, and then of course the ad hominem attacks begin to follow. All right, so let's get into this Nanny State stuff. There's a lot of things happening here. First of all, let me start with this. This is from Edward G. Griffin's site. Let me throw this link into the chat room so you guys can feast on this. You know where I'm going with it. Morning, Mary Sue. Let's put this in there. Here we go. What happened to Bill Hicks after Waco? Bill Hicks after Waco went into some kind of either witness protection program or he had his cancer happening. He had his cancer. Okay, so here we go. Tuesday night here in Bali. Ooh, Tuesday night in Bali. Sounds like a movie. All right, there's the link. Let me read this to you. Anti-vaxxers banned from raising money on GoFundMe. How about that? Anti-vaxxers have been banned from raising money on GoFundMe in an attempt to stop their message, warning that vaccines can be dangerous. YouTube is demonetized. There's that word again, demon. There's demon and demonetization. Anti-vaxxer videos. Pinterest has blocked search results for the term, and Facebook claims to reduce the prominence of posts spreading misleading information. Anti-vaxxers have been banned from raising money on GoFundMe in an attempt to stop the spread of conspiracy theories and misinformation. The crowdfunding platform announced it was carrying out a thorough review following reports of one campaigner had gathered nearly $80,000 in donations. They were 60,000 in pounds. Larry Cook, who promoted his fundraising efforts using Facebook adverts, targeted mothers with claims the medical community was covering up baby slaughter. GoFundMe spokesman Bobby Withorn said campaigns raising money to promote misinformation about vaccines violate GoFundMe's terms of service and will be removed from the platform. Sorry, nose itching. We are conducting a thorough review and remove any campaigns currently on our platform. Well, we've got a campaign on there for our anti-fluoride, and if you want to contribute to that, you can. So this is from The Independent. This is where the story originally surfaced, and G. Edgar Griffin decided that he was going to pass that along. There we go. Paste this in there. There we go. And you guys have the original source of the story. So there's more here. Famous faces of the anti-vaccine movement. We've got, of course, Charlie Sheen. Who else do we have? Let's see. There's Charlie Sheen. There's Gwyneth Paltrow. There's Rob Schneider. Jenny McCarthy. Bill Maher. Anti-vaccine guy. How about that? Alicia Silverstone. Andrew Wakefield, I like Andrew. I met him. He's the guy that broke everything on the Lancet, and he was sort of the vaccine whistleblower, and he took a lot of heat, and his career went into the dumpster because of it. Let's see here. Anti-vaxxers also remain active on Facebook with the Vaccination Information Network and The Truth About Vaccines docuseries, both attracting more than 100,000 followers and likes. The Vaccine Injury Stories group has 26,000 members. It follows increasing concerns over a surge of measles and chickenpox outbreaks across the UK, US, and Europe and around the world. More than 1,200 people have died in a recent measles outbreak in Madagascar. Social media companies are under pressure to take tougher action in the UK, and the government has announced it is considering new rules to ban any anti-vaccine posts. YouTube has demonetized the anti-vaxxer videos, etc., etc., etc. GoFundMe has not yet responded to requests for comment on its anti-vaxxer policy. There you go. There's the Nanny State for you, sinking its claws deeper and deeper into the human experience because, man, they want to get you from the jump. They want to get the parents who are the most vulnerable. The most vulnerable. When you have a child, especially your first child, you have that child, you're in this kind of, strange cloud of, oxytocinal release. The mother, here's the mother again, the oxytocinal release. And you're in that cloud, and it's almost like a trance, right? And you just want to take care of that baby. You want to do everything in your power to make sure that baby's safe. And where are they? Right there. They got that syringe just waiting. Oh, do anything. Just protect my little one. Protect my little one. And they send these kind of, robot nurses. They're not even nurses. They're like these retired volunteers. And they kind of dot her into the room. They're like the grandmotherly sort of, presence in the room with their vaccine information. Oh, hello. How are you? This happened to us. Oh, hello. How are you today? Oh, here you go. Here's some information on vaccines and inoculations. And they're, oh, it's the grandma. Oh, thank you. Thank you, grandmotherly person. Thank you. Oh, yes, we need to do this. Yes, you need to protect your little one. It gets you right at the jump, man. And then they got customers for life. Oh, well, guess what? Now you got another 20 of these things. But don't worry about it. We'll let you know when it's time. By the way, have you had any shots lately? Maybe we could double up here. I think don't we have a twofer today? I think we have a twofer. Yeah, we've got a twofer. Now, what does that lead to? If you don't give your kids shots, what do you got? Well, in Oregon, you're getting visits. That's what you're getting, especially if you decide to homeschool. Let me drop this in right there. Boom. There's another little link for you guys. Let me go over on the 15-minute side and drop this link in as I move between worlds in the pure spirit of Hermes. Hermes Trismegistus. There it is. You guys got that? There's the link. There we go. Oh, Brandon says, I heard there was some examination into where the New York measles comes from. Pretty strange. It was made in Israel. Wow. I'd love to see the link on that. Anyway, I just dropped a couple of links, speaking of, in both websites or both portals. Health Impact News. Oregon to become first state to mandate universal home visits of all families with newborn children. The Nanny State is coming to your door. Knock, 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 knock. Who's there? Nanny. Nanny who? Nanny State. Oh, come on in. Come on in. Please take notes. Please let us know how we're doing. Please let other people know how we're doing or not doing. Oh, this is opening up a can of worms, man. Think of the power. Think of the power that those people have once they come into your door. Your private domain, your home, theoretically, your sovereign state, defined by the four walls or how many other walls you got around you. Oregon Governor Kate Brown has submitted a 2-year budget proposal. They're fucking nuts in Oregon, okay? This woman's nuts. To the state legislature, and it includes several health initiatives aimed at children's behavioral mental health under the oversight of the Oregon Health Authority and Oregon's coordinated care organizations. a uniquely Oregon approach to blending a wide array of health services under one umbrella. One of the key pieces in Governor Brown's legislation is the beginning in a 6-year program to create universal home visits for new parents. People have been having kids for thousands of years, okay? Thousands of years. And now all of a sudden they got to have home visits. Hundreds of thousands of years, right? From the frickin' dawn of time. The proto-human, the pre-Anunnaki human. They got home visits from the Anunnaki. Those were the original home visitors, right? Who's there? Enlil. Oh, Enlil, come on in. How are we doing on this planet? I see there's some changes that need to be made. Let me get my brother involved. He'll turn you into a fine working species. Okay. When the program is complete, every new parent, this includes adoptions, will receive a series of 2 to 3 visits by someone like a nurse or other healthcare practitioner. The visits include basic healthcare screenings for babies, hooking parents up with primary physicians, linking them to other services, and coordinating the myriad of childhood immunizations that babies need. Got to have those babies immunized. Why do the babies have some rights here? Everybody else has rights. Allen made it clear that they were targeting all children, not just troubled families. Oh, good. We're not being singled out. Thank God. Thank God. The state of Oregon sees about 40,000 births per year, and the Universal Home Visit Program has apparently already been piloted in Lincoln County. Interesting name, right? Lincoln. If you live in Lincoln County, Oregon, and have experience with this Universal Home Visit Program that you would like to share with the public, please contact us. So if you're living in Lincoln, contact Health Impact News. Given what we've reported here at Health Impact News, and especially on our medicalkidnap.com website, can we really trust that medical professionals employed by the government who come into our homes are going to actually benefit our children and families? Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. Could you imagine somebody who says, who's one of these practitioners, well, I went to the family and they have not vaccinated their child. And I sat down with them and we had a very, very good discussion. And after talking to them, I understand why we're not vaccinating the kids. Why didn't they vaccinate their children? I totally get it now. And I actually support the family. How long do you think that person would last in that job? How long? You're fired. Really? Really? You're fired. Get out of here. Okay, what else do we have? What about the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, which the Cornell Law School states originally enforced the notion that each man's home is his castle? That's right. It is the sovereign domain. Theoretically, if it's not owned by a bank. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Is this proposed bill for universal home visits possibly just another way for the state to collect funds and potentially remove children from their homes and place them into the lucrative foster care and adoption system? We have already documented how the foster care system is not primarily about protecting children, but is merely a state-funded child trafficking system. Apparently, $400 million has already been allocated to states to fund home visits, and states need to implement programs to receive those funds. It's always an extortion racket. You get the money, but here's what you have to do. If you're living in Oregon and you have any kind of a spine, you need to band together and you need to sue these miscreants. Make them spend money. I wonder if GoFundMe, all right, here's an interesting question, bringing these two stories together. If you had a GoFundMe account so that you could get money so that you could have a suit against the state of Oregon so that you can fight the constitutionality of in-home visits, would GoFundMe ban you for that? They'd have to wrap their freaking heads around, well, they're fighting something that is theoretically in our Constitution. Oh my God, I mean, how do we do this? How do we do this? If you live in Oregon and there are still some independent and clear-thinking Oregonians, I know, I've had them as clients. Here's your chance. Here's your chance to get involved at a local level or at the state level at the very least. So just what is going on in the Pacific Northwest? Why is everything so crazy? And what are these so-called elites doing now that the people are finally waking up as to how their cities and how their states have been absolutely abducted right before their very eyes? You know, that documentary that I talked about, Seattle is Dying, has created quite a stir. Quite a stir. And the city government and the elites of Seattle are not taking it lightly. They have been offended that anybody has questioned their management of how that city is being run right into the third level of hell, the third rung of hell. How dare you question that? Now they're on the offensive. This is from Zero Hedge. Let me throw this in the link section. This over here. Morning, Andrea. Nice to see you. Throw that in there. That's for you guys. And then I'll throw this in over on the Chatwee 15-minute side. There we go. All right, let's put this in there. Bang, there you go. There's the other link. I'm going to read this to you. We've got about 10 minutes left in today's show. Let's see if I can squeeze this thing in here. With residents fed up by the homelessness crisis, city leaders and their allies coordinate a PR campaign to convince them that everything is fine. Everything's fine. The Seattle people are losing patience with city leadership over the homelessness crisis, but the frustration is running in both directions. The city's political, cultural, and academic elites are conducting their own revolt against the people. By the way, do you think China would put up with that shit? Do you think China would put up with a Seattle-like situation in any of their cities? No, they wouldn't. They would take those people out and they would freaking exterminate them. And I'm not advocating the extermination of vagrant Seattleites. I'm just telling you that that country wouldn't have one iota of patience for that kind of blight on any part of their country. Wouldn't. Everybody's got to conform and be pretty much a drone. It wouldn't do it. They're more than happy to produce a bunch of fentanyl, but if any of their people get hooked on fentanyl, forget it, man. All right, let me do this. Since the release of Eric Johnson's documentary, Seattle is Dying, which depicts an epidemic of street homelessness, addiction, crime, and disorder, city elites have launched a coordinated information campaign targeted at voters frustrated with the city's response to homelessness. Earlier this month, leaked documents revealed that a group of prominent nonprofits, guess who, the Bill and Gates Foundation, the Campion Advocacy Fund, the Rakes Foundation, and the Ballmer Group. The Ballmer Group, that's Steve Ballmer, who used to be Bill Gates' partner in Microsoft. He's now the owner of the LA Clippers. And he's this big, sweaty, bald man. And he sits courtside at all the LA Clipper games. And I sit there and I watch this big, sweaty, bald man watching his team play. And I ask myself, how did he get there? My God. Just an open thought. All right, here we go. Let me keep reading. The campaign... Oh, hold on. Let me go back here. Okay. Hired a PR firm, Pyramid Communications. Pyramid Communications. To conduct polling, create messaging, and disseminate the resulting content through a network of silent partners in academia, the press, government, and the nonprofit sector. They've got their little nodes. They've got their little, nodal drones out there. Yes, yes. Let me have some more money. Yes, yes. Let me have some more money. The campaign, hashtag Seattle for All, is a case study in what writer James Lindsay calls idea laundering. I like this. Creating misinformation, legitimizing it as objective truth through repetition in sympathetic media. We're going to tell you that your world is not really fucked up. That we're doing a great job. Here are the talking points. And by the way, you're the one that's fucked up. The key messages of the campaign include a number of misleading claims, including Seattle is making progress to end homelessness. 1 in 4 people experiencing homelessness in our community struggle with drug or alcohol abuse. And 62% of Seattle voters believe we are not spending enough to address homelessness. So they're going to play that guilt card. Guilt and civic pride. I love Seattle. Let me believe the lie because I love this place. The lie is easier for me to swallow. I get up every day and I put on the glasses that block everything out. Let me go home to my nice little 3-2 in Ravenna and just hope that tomorrow it gets better. All 3 contentions fail to meet basic scrutiny. Street homelessness has increased 131% over the past 5 years. King County's lawsuit against Purdue Pharma admits that the majority of homeless population is addicted to or uses opioids. Right? Not 1 in 4. The majority. Not 1 in 4. And 62% of Seattle voters agree to the statement, we are not spending enough, only when it's directly prefaced in the polling questionnaire by the phrase, other cities of the same size are spending 2 to 3 times the amount that Seattle is and are seeing significant reductions in homelessness. Itself an unsubstantiated claim. When the same question is presented neutrally, without framing, support for we're not spending enough drops to 7%. So what they're doing is they are spending huge amounts of money using PR to shape public opinion and public perception to basically con people into believing everything is okay. This is another wing of the Nanny State. So now we've seen 3 wings of the Nanny State. We've seen the wing of the Nanny State reaching into social media, which is if you want to be sovereign and you want to organize people and you want to crowdsource and you want to crowdfund, we're going to cut you off if we believe that your actions and your goals and your intentions are not in alignment with our community services or our standards. That's number 1. Number 2, the Nanny State says, well, we're going to get you from the jump and we're going to get right into your homes and we're going to indoctrinate you and we're going to force and apply pressure on you just by our mere presence of being there. Number 3, now the Nanny State, in conjunction with the stinking rich elites who want to maintain control in their increasingly compounded areas of the city, decide that they're going to band together, put their money together, and tell people that they're nuts, they're wacky, that they really need to believe that things aren't as bad as they really are, or that they think they are. That there's a whole other reality. If you sniff this other reality like we do, then you'll get by just fine. Nonetheless, the media have widely circulated or echoed Pyramid's talking points. New poll shows that majority in Seattle say we have a moral obligation to help homeless people. And we need to spend more, declared Seattle Times data journalist Gene Bake. Catherine Henriksen, director of Seattle University's Project on Family Homelessness, published 6 reasons why KOMO's Seattle ABC affiliate, which broadcasts Seattle's dying take on homelessness, is the wrong one. In the local magazine Crosscut, arguing that the documentary conflates homelessness with drug use, mental illness, and crime, and Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin told reporters that we have made a lot of progress and dismissed the documentary as an opinion piece. Her office pushed for hashtag Seattle for All messaging on social government social media channels. Many of the authors and news outlets that publish hashtag Seattle for All messaging fail to disclose that their work is funded by the same group of foundations that hire Pyramid Communications, and that their content is distributed in direct coordination with Pyramid and the city of Seattle. For example, in her story, Henriksen neglects to mention that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is the sole funder of her work, that the Project on Family Homelessness. The publisher Crosscut does not reveal that the Gates and Rakes Foundations are major funders of their operations and their homelessness coverage. They are basically covering the exits. They are creating the outlets and deploying the gatekeepers because they don't want people waking up. They don't. They want to keep people asleep, and they want to make people feel guilty. They want to build guilt into it. Oh, you don't love the city? How could you not love this? Look at all we're doing for these people. I'll tell you what they should do. For the homeless population in the city of Seattle, I'll tell you what they should do. They've got all these islands in the Puget Sound. And they should get them all together and they should put them on one of these islands. That's what they should do. And once they're on the island, now they have a center there that is dedicated to getting these people off of drugs. Okay? Get them off drugs. Whether it's the methadone treatment or the ibogaine treatment. The number one goal is to get them off drugs. The number two goal is to send a message that if anybody comes to Seattle and you're homeless and you've got a drug problem, you ain't getting shit. You're not getting shit. And guess what? You're going to get shipped out to an island. See the same thing to San Francisco. They should turn Alcatraz into a center where they get people off the streets and they basically work on them. And they don't let them out until they are clean. And then once they get out, they've got things lined up for them. And if they want to get off the islands, they have to get off and swim off. Good luck. Good luck with that. But would they ever do it? Oh no, that's cruel. That's inhumane. How could you take them out of this environment? They're creating this. They are creating this cesspool of demoralization. That's their role. That's their job. It is not about pride. It is not about dignity. It is not about self-respect. That's their role and goal. All right. Of course they're not. Anna asks, are Bill Gates' children? Of course.